health insurance deadlines, and it turns out that government officials are human beings too. I'm Cameron Porter, owner of Robin Hood Studios, and this is Venture Utah. We've got a full roster of high-caliber people to interview today. Crispin Sandford, a business organization coach, Annette Judd, a well-known realtor, and our friend and partner, Scott McKinley, with 2 Evolve Coaching and Consulting. But first, we do have several stories of interest to businesses here in the state. First, there's been a bit of a mix-up in Utah County, where health department officials released reports that 2 businesses had ignored COVID-19 safety guidelines and forced sick employees to work. Well, 3 weeks later, it turns out that those reports were simply not true. Health department officials had interviewed several employees of those businesses, and while it's not clear whether the employees claimed that sick employees were being forced to work or whether the health department officials drew their own conclusions, nor has it yet been clarified how it became known that the reports were incorrect. The Utah County Attorney's Office is currently investigating the situation and will continue to update the media as appropriate. It's good to keep in mind for both sides of the aisle that government workers are just as human as the rest of us. Therefore, we should not put undue faith and confidence in the ability of the government to do things, and we should also be careful not to ascribe malicious intent to people who may just be making human mistakes. If you or someone you know has been laid off in the shutdown and lost health insurance, you may be coming up against your deadline to get health care over the exchanges. Losing your health insurance due to layoffs initiates a 60-day special enrollment period. So if you were laid off at the end of March, you are running out of time to enroll in a health care plan on the exchanges. With the media and government emphasis on stimulus packages and other payouts, the insurance piece has been virtually unmentioned, and officials are beginning to worry that many people will be blindsided by the deadline and not get enrolled in time. Many of those losing their health insurance have never used the exchanges and have no idea what their options are. If you are looking for assistance or information on your health insurance options, we know multiple top-notch health insurance agents who charge customers nothing for their services. So please message the Venture Utah Facebook page and we'll get you connected. Alrighty, our first guest today is Scott McKinley with 2 Evolve Coaching and Consulting. We haven't seen him for a while, but he's a longtime friend and partner of the show. And I get to talk with Scott and all 10 of his toes. So this is going to be a great conversation.
It's summer, baby.
It's summer.
It's happening.
I love it.
We're all emerging from these holes in the ground. And, yeah.
And you're talking like that with the red hat and the longer hair.
It was the option, because I haven't had a haircut since, I think the last time I came up here, which was the week that everything kind of went nuts. And I was talking to my wife and I said, do I wear a hat or do I wear a man bun? And so the hat won.
You know, that's probably for the best. Yeah. It's probably for the best. But I am sad that I was deprived of the...
You might see it.
Okay.
You might make an appearance.
Don't make promises you won't keep, Scott. No, okay. So you mentioned at the beginning here, or before we started, that you wanted to talk about the victor-victim mentality and the differences between them.
Right.
Why is that something you wanted to talk about?
Because it's what I've seen a lot of over the last couple of months. I mean, I don't know when this is going to air, so I'm assuming it's coming out like pretty recent.
2 days.
So in 2 days. All right. So everybody, this is still fresh in everybody's mind, what's been happening in the world. And from a business coach's perspective that talks about mindset, you know, I'm just flooded with clients either adopting the victor mentality of going, yeah, this is crazy. There's nothing I can do about this. So what do I want to do? Do I want to create, or do I want to curl up in a ball and adopt that victim mentality? This is all happening to me. Michael Beckwith says that there's different stages of spiritual growth, and those first stages is I'm a victim. This is happening to me, this damn pandemic that's happened and this quarantine, and woe is me, and I can't run my business, and what's going to happen, and fear. Or those people that are in the exact same boat, and that's been kind of the comforting thing that I've felt, is that this isn't just happening to my family. This isn't just happening to my clients. This is happening on a global stage, and people have that choice to go, is this happening to me, or am I going to create through this and choose to find a better strategy for running my business, or a different strategy that maybe I hadn't thought of. So that's why when you ask, what do I want to talk about? It's just the thing that's the most fresh in my mind because most everybody is adopting one of those two mentalities.
And what's interesting about it, and what makes it tricky, I think, the difference between the victim and the victor mentality, is that it's not about what is factually accurate.
Right.
Because both perspectives are factually correct.
Correct.
You're acknowledging the same things. And so when someone is, and I found myself doing this, is, just trying to look at the facts. And what I'm really doing is victimizing myself.
Right. Well, if you're looking at it from a subjective perspective of let's look at the facts to find how I'm being a victim.
Right.
Are you going to see it?
Absolutely.
You're totally going to see it. That fear, the ego. The ego loves that victim mentality. It will, if you say, well, let's just look for facts, if that ego is still whispering in your ear. So it's awareness to that. It's just going, okay, how do I remove the ego in this moment and try to be as objective as possible in finding some answers?
So one thing that I've done that helps me shift is just asking stop looking at, the facts, stop looking at what's going on, and ask myself a very simple question. What do I want?
Bingo.
What do I want? And then that just becomes useful information. All the things that are happening to me just becomes useful information as I figure out how to get what I want.
You said something that was really important there, which required some conscious thought. When I shift, when I'm wanting to shift, you wanted to shift, you wanted to find a different approach and a different way of looking at it. And I think that what I've found with a lot of clients recently is just they're not aware that there's a different approach, that there is a different angle that you can come to it. It doesn't have to be victim. It can be, I'm given this opportunity right now to try something different. I've been given this opportunity. Some might say I've been forced into this opportunity, but is it an opportunity or is it a punishment? You had the chance to look for a different perspective. What did you find?
I found opportunity. I found actually the happiest I've been in years.
Wow.
Frankly, you know, and you don't realize as you're, sometimes as you're striving to be the victor, or you're striving to work in your business, sometimes you don't take the time to self-reflect on whether you're actually getting joy from your work.
Yeah, true.
Whether you're just so focused on going, this is what I want, this is what I want, you don't realize that there's something else that you want that you're not getting. And that's what happened to me in about mid to late March when things really started to take a dive. For us, for Robin Hood Studios, that was when I had the opportunity to say, wow, I have nothing to do. That feels damn good.
You're right.
Like that feels wonderful.
All you've got to do is sit at home, play with your kids.
Right.
No obligation. It's just this is all I have to do right now. But I bet during that time you still found ways to create.
I did, and I took about a week and a half of where I really did. I went home at 2 o'clock every day, and it was with the kids and the family doing stuff. And then when I was here, I was not very productive. I was just kind of relaxing. And after about a week and a half of that, I said, okay, you know what? I have an opportunity here, and that's when I really shifted into doing some other projects, working on some other creative projects that I have wanted to do for years. Made enough progress on it that I'm going to keep doing it on the side now that Robin Hood Studios is back. And I had the chance to evaluate what about my life, my career, was depriving me of joy. And I was able to isolate those things and figure out how to get rid of them and find balance.
And I hear all the time from clients, and I'm sure that this has been something that you've said, because it's been something that I've said, I want to do this, but I just don't have the time. Like my day is full already. I've got a full load of clients. I've got my family responsibilities. I've got personal things that I want to do that I need to do for me. I just don't have time in the day to create something new. Well, everybody in the world got put on timeout, and all we had was an abundance of time. People like you did something with it. People that have that victim mentality, and it's all, as we talk about the Habit Finder assessment, one of the key areas that we focus on is what are your thoughts around structure? When it comes to authority, are you disciplined? Are you resentful of authority? When it comes to rules, when it comes to analyzing things, looking at problems, are you able to look at problems with the right filter? Or is your paradigm to obsess about things? And look, we've seen people on the news that are obsessing about structure and discipline that's being put on them. And that way of thinking just creates more chaos in a person's life, and it creates unnecessary suffering. And that's the message that I want to kind of get across today, is that when we're given opportunities to be a victim or a victor, you're going to create unnecessary suffering if your habits are to go in that, look, these things are happening to me, I'm losing my liberty, I'm losing my freedoms. Because I've seen people that have absolutely magnified their businesses. They've been given an opportunity to look for different solutions, different strategies. And I've seen people, because I do a lot of coaching in direct selling in that world. In the Mary Kay world, I have a lot of clients that are in that world. And they all offer the same product. They all have the same, approaches and strategies. But when this pandemic hit, what the company said was, start doing facials over Zoom. Start doing Facebook Live and see if you can still reach an audience. Well, there were those victims that just, nope, I can't do this. I don't know how to use the software. Victim, victim, victim. But there were people that said, well, I don't know how to use the software, but I'm going to learn. I'm going to take this opportunity because I have the time now to play around. And those people I've got women who have absolutely just smashed it with their, like doubled their best month when they were out going and doing warm chatter and meeting people on the street, and they're doubling what they were doing in their best months because they chose to take the time to see it from the perspective of, okay, what can I create? What can I do here? And it's just that background noise coming from the subconscious that one has to start to become aware of, which is why we say, look, if you struggle with things like that, that's why we offer the assessment to anybody that's watching for free and sit down with a coach to go, you have other options. You don't have to just focus on what your ego and that subconscious program is telling you. I mean, I remember in a talk with you, when we were talking about that obligation, and you said, I was aware that I had obligation and that was what was driving me, but I didn't know that there was another option. I didn't know that there was a better choice. And so, look, if anybody is watching this and has felt that victim mentality, it's okay. It's not your fault that you have those tendencies. It's not our fault for the paradigms that we pick up throughout our life. But once we become aware of it, it does become our responsibility to do something different about it. This is an invitation to people to say, if you felt that and you want other options, here's your opportunity to learn and see what you can create. See what can come of your life in your business and in your personal life by just discovering that you don't have to stick with those habits that you've developed your entire life.
Let's try real quick for people who may be wanting to self-diagnose.
Okay.
Do I have a victim mentality? And one thing that I've noticed, at least with myself, is that one way I can tell that I'm in a victim mentality is I become more obsessed with control, with controlling the things around me, and controlling other people.
Yeah.
I find that, my kids, if they're doing something that's just a little something that I would rather they not do, suddenly it's the Hindenburg.
Yeah.
Like, it's a big deal and I need to control it and I need to make it not happen.
Yeah.
Are there other things that people have tendencies to do, things that they can watch out for if they
Why
have
would we talk about anything else? I think that nails it perfectly. Like, if you feel that, if you've got that desire to try to control things, first off, that's just an illusion. You can't control anything. The only thing that you have any ability to control is how you choose to respond in situations. So, we can diagnose it. Have you been on social media reading about all of the people that are in that same mindset, that are acting like victims, instead of just going, okay, I'm going to just follow the structure that we've been given as a way for us to be able to have freedom. I don't want to get deep into the whole mask controversy.
Sure. I'd rather we didn't.
It goes both ways, but there are people that can look at that and go, you're stealing my freedom, you're taking away my right. And look, I don't like wearing a mask. My wife and I were in Costco, and it was back when we were all making our masks out of our old concert t-shirts. And man, I remember just ripping it off in the car and just feeling like a panic attack was coming. But what was the purpose of it? The purpose of it is to prolong life. It's to give us that freedom, to be able to have a life, you know, without disease, without being sick during this pandemic. So if you've felt that, if you've gravitated toward that low vibration of fear, then that might be a really solid indicator that there is some victim mentality that's taking place. And the people that have taken the time to be more creative, to serve people, to take the focus off themselves, to say, what can I do? During this time, my friends and I have been wanting to do a podcast, and we've started a podcast. We've filmed 3 episodes already. We've done something with the time, because one of the biggest complaints that people say in their day is, I just don't have enough time. Mm-hmm. So if you've sat at home and you've watched Netflix, and you've finished a Netflix, and didn't take any opportunity to do something as a way to expand and to grow and to serve, then that might be a good indication that there's some just opportunities for you to learn a little bit more about that victor mentality, which is going, I'm going to rise up in these situations. I've seen people that have done it, and the results are magnificent.
I love it. That is all the time we have. A real quick reminder for our audience, best way to contact you.
My email is scott@2evolvecoaching.com. That's the number 2, evolvecoaching.com.
I love it. Okay. Thank you so much for being here, Scott.
Absolutely. Good to see you again, man.
Yes, good to see you. All right, our next guest is none other than Crispin Sandford, a business organization coach whom I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the last few months. Crispin, thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure. Really, thank you for having me.
No problem. So you help businesses with organization, but it's not large corporate organizations, it's small businesses that you're helping. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, essentially we're looking at businesses, small businesses, and I've even helped people transition into their own business.
Oh, perfect. So in your experience, as you've worked with small businesses, which come in all shapes and sizes and phases, they're all in different stages of their business as well, are there common inefficiencies or mistakes that you see people making on the organization side?
Yeah, there really are. One of the things I realized a long time ago, and I first went to business school when I was 16.
Wow.
Gosh, which is 30 years ago. Well, I studied business studies at college when I was 16, Queen Elizabeth. But so I've kind of looked at business for a long time. And I was quite surprised that, you know, people were confused. Like, business is business, right? You have, as I like to say, an executive section, administrative, marketing, finance, production and delivery, quality control, and business development. Now, as long as you have those areas represented in your business, you have essentially a complete business. The common misconceptions and mistakes that I run into all the time, and that I always address and help business owners with, is finding the gaps according to that structure in their business, and then helping them to fill those gaps. The other thing as well is that people don't realize that really a lot of the things that they do in business, they know, but they just need to document it. And they need to organize it according to that structure, and they have to be familiar enough with it to execute it consistently.
Gotcha.
So just by getting them organized, that's why I picked business organization as the way in which I would attract people, market to people, and find my own category. It enables me to immediately have that conversation, address that, allay their fears that their business is different than another business, and immediately have a dramatic impact. Because they get organized, they start to document, they start to get consistent, and it dramatically improves their business immediately, and I look like a genius.
Absolutely. Yeah, that makes so much sense. There's really no one else that's doing that, that's focusing on organization. And that's really what's missing in a lot of businesses. I know that we did some consulting. I hired you to do some consulting with me, and immediately you went through, and I had kind of 3 departments. I had my production department, which is revenue generating. I had my admin department, and I had my acquisition department. And immediately you saw you need to change acquisition to business development. And we talked about it for a bit, and since making that change, I mean, it's been such an obvious mind shift where calling it the acquisition department is really kind of like a hunter with an arrow looking for a deer,
Exactly.
trying to hunt that buck. whereas business development is far more about, it's more encompassing. It doesn't encompass just my customers. It encompasses also my strategic partners, my allies, my friends of, and we talked about that as well.
Correct, yeah.
And simply having that categorized in my mind made it easier for me to figure out what tasks needed to be done for each category.
Correct.
Do you see that with businesses a lot?
100%, 100%. I mean, really, you know, one of the important things that I've learned as well is that you can have theory, but then you've got to practice the theory and get the results. And, you know, people will want to tell me that they're going to do this thing, or they think this way, and you go, okay, well, what are you doing now that gets results? Right? Let's streamline how you're currently getting results. But also when you structure things and you give them an actual working structure, things start to align. And they start to get results, and then they start to see things they can do designed around results and getting results, which all of a sudden mean that their theories work, their suspicions or concerns get addressed very quickly. One of the core pillars of my organization business is to get people organized for results, and it changes their thinking.
Yeah.
Just as you said. So literally, it's almost like, you know, it's fun because I'll take people through the workshop, and there will be these common experiences I have. Like the person suddenly knows that it's not really going to work, and they've just given me thousands of dollars, and they're worried, and then all of a sudden they're like, wow, like I understand business. Like, wow, like I see how this should go, and he's right. And then their eyes glow and sparkle, and they start getting to work, and they're hitting the ground running, they get results, they get into a stride, and it really makes me proud, you know, because I'm like, what I know, I'm telling you, is true, it works, get these parts together, and they'll all fall together, you know, and sometimes it's just like, I have smaller packages, smaller services that are part of the process of establishing the trust, getting people the results, and they say, okay, just give me the full package, okay, I will listen.
Like, I get it.
I got it, let's do this. Right.
So, not having their business properly organized or compartmentalized.
Structured. The infrastructure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then not documenting things.
Not documenting things. That's, like, again, a common thing that people will run into, business owners, is that they know for sure that nobody else can do their job like they can. And even though that is true very often, you know, sometimes you can bring somebody in, if you've documented the functions and the role, and it's in a pack, and you properly apprentice them, then that person can then refer to the pack, but do the job for the entire business day, not just a few hours here and there or several times a week. And because of that, because they're following the documented work to get the results, there's a thing that Dean Graziosi talks about called unconscious competence. When you're documenting and when you're training somebody, when you're sharing the knowledge and know-how, you start to realize that things that are obvious to you are not obvious to them. And you have to document it so that they can study it and refer to it as what they need to do. But all of a sudden, you're going through your day doing the work, and you're not being bothered, you're not being interrupted. That work is being done. And that is another breakthrough in how to help people succeed, and actually not just, you know, they technically own the business, but in many ways the business owns them.
Absolutely.
Right. So now they're not only technically business owners after I've worked with them, they actually own their business, and all of the functions in the work and the management are viably done by other people.
That's fantastic. And that's been my experience as well as I started to document. And I've heard the response that, well, if I'm just going to train them anyway, why do I need to also do the documentation? But what I found is that the documentation, I mean, the training isn't effective unless the documentation is there. You know, you could have a 6-week training period as opposed to a 2-week training period if you don't have the documents. And there's always something to refer to. They don't have to come ask you when they don't remember something.
Correct.
They just go to the document and they look at the document, they find what they're looking for, and done.
Yeah. And the other thing as well, just in this area, but throughout all of business, is this whole idea of simplification. So if you have one message you're communicating, one point, one principle, one function, and you just document that and how to execute it, then the person can refer to that specific document when they are dealing with that specific function. And then have to search through and find, and hey, where is that thing? Like, no. And you also write it at most 9th grade. And there's different tools and apps you can do it in Word, but you can find what grade your text is written at. But making it consumable, simplifying it, making it clear, like any of your audience do this, what I'm saying, will dramatically improve their business. Just doing what I'm talking about, organizing according to those sections, documenting the way in which they execute the functions and get the results in the organization, worry about the theory, what you'd like to do at another time, but just concentrate on what you do that gets the results, documenting your unconscious competence when you're training somebody or talking about it with people, realize that they don't actually know that and it is not obvious and that is something you're really good at. You know, people flip pancakes like nothing, but I'm sure we've all tried to flip a pancake the first time and it's not that easy. So you got to kind of put in the little techniques and the little, the specific elements that they can then identify, practice, drill, and then get down. And then when they go to do the job, they flip it perfect first time.
So the business structure, having the correct departments, and then documenting. Is there a third thing that you?
Well, simplifying. I was saying, and simplifying.
Oh, and third is the simplifying.
Simplify.
Yeah, okay,
yeah,
perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, and those are probably the most common things that you see then.
Yeah, those are things that I have to address, and this is a part of my message. Like, you know, I'll tell these things for free, right? I'm happy to, because people go, this is true, and then this is what we're going to address, and this is something we need to transition them through. Like this is also a part of presentations I give, because before people understand these things, they're not ready to get organized and do my program. They need to see, you know, he's right. You know, this is true. But you know, those are very key things to help people address in the goal of getting them organized and more successful. And another key thing, if I can mention as well.
Please.
Okay, so people often focus on, they want to scale up, they want to grow, they want to expand, they want to get to the next level, you know, and they're stuck at a plateau, or they drop right back down to it, below it. And this is the common effort. It's everyone's doing it, right? And it's hysterical, because if I address it again, wow, you know, it's very poignant, powerful, like genius. And it's like, no, I've seen it 100 million times, you know what I mean? But it's that what they need to do in order to scale up, right? Because they're always doing the same thing. I want to grow, I want to expand, technique, I need this marketing thing, how this is going to help me blow up. And you go, no. You need to actually establish a complete organization, you know, well-established, productive, and expanding. That's what I call a complete organization.
Okay.
And every complete, well-established, productive, and expanding organization has the executive section, administrative, marketing, finance, production and delivery, quality control, and business development. Then when you start to document everything you've got, as well as the things that are missing, and start to fill in the gaps with documentation, and start to realize you know this intuitively, but now that you're documenting it, you're going to be able to do it consistently. Maybe the way in which you've gotten referrals, you actually start to isolate, wow, that is the exact same way I actually got that other referral too. I didn't realize that. And you start to do it consciously, and then the referrals start to roll in. But once you've successfully established your business at its current size and capacity, then you know exactly what you're doing, how it operates, how many people you need, what technical staff do, what the administrative staff do to support them. And so you can go, okay, there's other ways of generating higher income. You want higher value services that provide more service to your current clients, but that's a whole other subject. But
sure.
But once you've got the money set aside to hire new people for the technical and administrative side, then you can hire them, train them, apprenticing them, turning over their packs, get them getting the experience they need, and then launch your business development, your marketing campaign. The floodgates open, but people are getting serviced professionally, perfectly. And instead of bring people in, there's mistakes, people make mistakes, people drop the ball with the current clients, it's a disaster, and like, are we going to survive after this? I think I've destroyed my business. That doesn't happen. You just get to the next level, and you're there, and you know exactly that you're there, why you got there, and how you can stay there.
I love that. That's amazing. That is unfortunately all the time we have, but for people who want to get in touch with you, what is the best way?
Well, they can reach me at Crispin, that's CRISPIN, at crispinsanford.com. if they shoot me an email, I'll be happy to answer.
Perfect. That sounds perfect. Alrighty, our third and final guest is the magnificent Annette Judd. I'm very excited for this conversation. She comes highly recommended from people whose opinions I respect a lot. So, Annette, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So how long have you been doing real estate?
Just over 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So enough time to definitely know what you're up against and what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I wish I knew Crispin when I first started. He would have helped me a lot.
I know. He's great. He's really great at what he does. And so the first question I want to open with for you is the real estate market's kind of been its own special thing the last couple of months, where a lot of things are just going down and tanking. Mm-hmm. The real estate market has actually thrived.
Yep.
Why do you think that is?
Well, agents are very resourceful, and we've got great associations behind us. So they just took a really quick pause and defined what I think would be best for the consumer, and how do we protect our efforts as agents to work with our consumers, buyers and sellers. And so they just created some guidelines for us. It went along with CDC and state recommended guidelines. And yeah, it went well. And I think there were some people who put things on pause, which is why now we're seeing kind of a spike over people showing more homes.
I see.
Even more than last year. So
kind of the demand has at least stayed the same, maybe gotten higher, but the supply of real estate agents has gone down because people have decided, some people had the victim mentality, right?
Yeah, some of them had that pause, but definitely I think that it was more that, and that's the way I viewed it, was for some people they just have to take a pause. I have a lot of military clients, absolutely have no control over when their next assignment is coming.
Right.
And they put that off, so I think this year we'll see some differences in our numbers, but overall I still think it's going to be strong, and we're still going to see that great appreciation. Utah is a unique place, and I appreciate it, and I love it. Our state has done a great job of attracting businesses that are industries that really weren't affected by COVID. And I think that's a great thing for us, and that's what kind of probably kept some of those buyers still wanting to keep going, because their jobs weren't affected. We have a lot of, one of my recent clients is employed by Northrop, and those guys are still working and going strong. He still needed a house, and we had short time to do it. So I'm grateful for the sellers who are willing to kind of go with the flow of the COVID.
Absolutely. So you're kind of seeing in the next, in the next little while in the long term that the market's going to stay strong. It's going to keep going.
Yeah, the experts predict that we're going to double in our population by 2065.
In Utah?
In Utah.
Which is, gosh.
Yeah, it's a little hard for us to fathom, but even over the last 14 years that I've lived here, I've seen a lot of growth. And what we're going to see more of is, and we've seen some already, is developers who build different kinds of homes and types of opportunities for buyers and sellers, like condos and townhomes and single family homes. They're just going to be on different sizes of the lots. But what I think is great about that is it gives somebody who loves their condo, but then they've kind of outgrown it, they want a little bit bigger place, they can move up to that townhome and still stay in the same community.
Yeah.
All the things they love about where they already live, they can still keep that. So I look at it as that's a great opportunity of a different lifestyle kind of to adopt for, new generations that don't live the same way as their mom and their grandma. So, but I think we'll see more of that.
So it's an interesting point. I mean, is there a lot of, so for someone looking at selling their home, my wife and I are always talking about, should we sell, should we move? For people who are looking at selling their home, essentially they have two options. They can do it themselves, or they can go with a real estate agent.
Yep.
What would you say are the pros and cons of those two options?
So the biggest pro of listing with a realtor is having it on our multiple listing service. We call it the MLS. And it's our website. It's a cooperation between all of the brokers that we're going to put all of the homes on there. It's going to have accurate information. It's going to be readily accessible to a consumer.
So it's like Zillow, but real and true.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So, but yes, we put it on the MLS, and today there were like almost 4,100 homes that were sold just in Salt Lake, Davis, Weber, Utah County.
Wow.
Only those counties. So if you're listing it on your own, you're going to sell it on your own, where are you going to advertise it? And 90% of buyers today are going to use a real estate agent. So if you're selling it on your own, you need to have a good resource or a place that you're going to put it to advertise it, to get the word out there to as many buyers as possible. But know that 9 out of 10 are going to have an agent. And so a lot of for sale by owners, they have what I believe is a misconception that they're going to save money because they don't have to pay an agent a commission. Well, the buyer's agent gets a commission and the listing agent gets a commission. So if you're for sale by owner, you're going to have 9 out of 10 that have an agent. So you're probably going to be dealing with at least 1/2 of the commission. But the national numbers tell us that, for the most part, people who use a real estate agent sell for a higher price. So that really might be negatable. I mean, whether or not really they're giving up more money. Because if we can sell it for more because we have bigger selling power, then in fact it might just be.
I have a question for you, actually. This is something I genuinely do not know, which is when you, I know there's a lot of concern, the concern that I've had with hiring a real estate agent to sell our house is, how do I know that real estate agent is really going to earn their commission? And so the question I have is, if you do, bring on an agent to sell the house, are you contractually obligated to use them until the house is sold, or can you just fire them and hire a new one?
It will depend on what kind of agreement you've signed in the contract.
Okay.
So,
that depends.
I would ask that question to the agent if you're not performing by X day, or you can add that in specifically. Some of them do get a little more relaxed about, hey, I've got the listing, I've got the sign in the yard, it's on the MLS, and maybe, but it might feel that way to a consumer, maybe that we're not doing too much. But yeah, it really is going to depend on your contract with your particular agent. So that's a great question.
Okay, gotcha. And I know that that can be a soft spot, and I'm certainly not trying to insinuate that anybody is that way. I happen to know a realtor personally who had done it for a long time and had gotten really lackadaisical in it, and he actually told me that that's the way he kind of goes about it.
Oh, wow.
and so that made me kind of just wonder, like, okay, so is there more to that 3% than just putting it on MLS? And so it's good to know. It's good to know that that's questions you can ask. Are there other questions that you would recommend that people ask in the contract process when they're hiring a real estate agent?
Sure. I like, with the people I work with, I like to know how they like to communicate. I like to know what their schedule is, so I know, hey, I work 7 to 3, but I can't text or call during that time.
That's huge.
Whatever it is, I'm making a note of that so that I'm not bugging them when they're at work. Or if somebody's like, text me whenever. That's awesome. I can respect them, but at the same time, they know how they can get a hold of me. That's big for me, is responsiveness, because I feel like it's really simple to text someone yes or no, or I'll get back to you. Really simple to do that. And so that's one thing I pride myself on, but I think people should ask, what's your schedule like? How available are you to show the home? Or how, those kinds of questions, their availability versus your availability. So some people do it part-time. So what's their other job like? So it's a really important question to ask, and they don't like to always brag that they're only doing it part-time, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's how I started. But the consumer needs to know, so that's a good question for them to ask their agent is, are you doing this full-time?
Gotcha.
Do you take weekends off? Or, what's the availability?
Man, is there such a thing as a real estate agent who takes weekends off?
Some do it.
They exist somewhere out in the wild. If you're in the right spot and the stars align, you might find one, I guess. Okay, so this actually is a great lead-in, because I think what we want to talk about is, what about Annette Judd? Let's take a swim in Lake Annette.
Okay.
What makes Annette Judd such a fantastic and highly recommended realtor?
Well, how long do you have? I mean, no. I think there's a lot to me, and I think starting out at a point in my life where I could come from that abundance mentality, there's some great guests today that talked about that kind of thing. I do it because I love it. I put aside a job that was very prestigious. I was an air traffic controller, and it wasn't filling my soul. And so I stepped away from it to do something. I knew that I could make a difference with every single person I worked with. And so I give it 110%. I want to be different than, and one of the things I do right now is, hey, maybe you had a bad experience with a different real estate agent, or you bought a home and you've never heard from the agent again. I'd love to adopt you as my client. You don't have to buy or sell, but I want to adopt you and treat you like I treat my clients that I have done business with. And it's amazing. I want to be able to help anyone that I come across. That's just kind of how I live my life. And whether somebody's buying or selling, maybe they need a roofer, or maybe they need help with credit. It's going to help them in their life. Their insurance rates are going to be better. There's all kinds of ways that I can be of service to people. One of the other things that I do is I feel like I have a great network of trade people and business owners. So if you need a roof, I have several great people I can refer, whatever the business is. And so I just train my friends and clients to call me when they need somebody, and I'm helping out my business owner friends, and I'm helping out the people that are close to me are my clients.
Yeah.
And to me, I feel like that's a great
I love that.
thing to give people.
You're multiplying. You're helping everybody help each other.
Yep.
And I think that is proof of what you just said that you believe. You believe in helping people. You believe that that's what you want to do. You want to make a difference for every single person that you work with. And the fact that you do that when there's no monetary benefit to yourself, that's proof positive that you're not just saying it, that it's real.
Yeah.
What would you say? Oh, actually, I'm sorry, we're almost out of time. I want to ask that though. Is there anything else that you feel like sets you apart from other real estate agents?
Well, my experience in being an air traffic controller, I think, is really cool because you have to be very detail oriented and constantly looking at the flow and where your work is. And so I think that just came very naturally with me in real estate, is because you can have umpteen number of clients that are all in different phases of looking for a home or selling their home. They're all in that different, they can have 40 days worth of different things that they're looking at. And
Absolutely.
so anyway, being able to juggle that with that attention to detail and care. So putting those together, I think, just makes it a really great person to work with.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So for people who want to get in touch with you about your services, what would be the best way to do so?
They can text or call me.
Okay.
Or my email is annette@juddhomes.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being here, Annette. This was fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, and that is it for this week's episode of Venture Utah, but never fear, we will be back once again next week for more content. Friday at 10 a.m. We will see you then.